Light in the dark. The Starcutter screamed through hyperspace, its phase drive pushed beyond safe limits. In the cockpit, Rook's hands flew across controls while Vena's crystalline form pulsed with urgent light. They had 12 hours before the hegemony activated their corrupted confluence. Status of the fleet? Rook asked, watching energy readings spike dangerously. 6 capital ships approaching the central node, Vena reported, her light interfacing directly with the ship's sensors. They're gathering their strongest psychics. The shadow echoes grow restless. Their plan was desperate, perhaps impossible. The hegemony had built their network node in the heart of a dying star, thinking its radiation would amplify the connection. They didn't realize it would also amplify the hunger. Running final checks on the modifications, Rook said, examining the crystalline additions to his neural implant. Vena had spent hours carefully adapting Luminar technology to interface with his human consciousness. One mistake would shatter his mind. Rook, Vena's voice chimed softly. There is still time to turn back. What we attempt, no being has ever survived direct contact with the pure confluence. No single being, he corrected. But we're not doing this alone. He managed a grin despite the pressure building behind his eyes. Besides, when have humans ever let impossible odds stop us? The ship shuddered as they dropped out of hyperspace. The dying star filled their view, its surface roiling with magnetic storms. Hegemony ships surrounded a massive space station suspended in the star's corona, protected by experimental shields. They've detected us, Vena warned. Good. Rook engaged the final modifications to the phase drive. Let's give them something to chase. The Starcutter split into multiple phase images, each one appearing solid to sensors. As the hegemony fleet opened fire, Rook wove through their formation, letting them tangle themselves in pursuit of phantoms. They reached the station's docking ring just as klaxons began blaring. The activation sequence, Vena said urgently. They're starting early. Inside the station, chaos reigned. Security forces fought against their own shadow echoes, who resonated with the building energy. Rook and Vena raced through corridors where reality itself seemed to waver. The core is ahead, Vena guided them. Where the hunger is strongest. They burst into a vast chamber dominated by a lattice of dark crystals. In its center, a swirling vortex of consciousness began to form. Hegemony psychics lay scattered around it, their minds already consumed. Now, Rook. He activated the neural implant as Vena's energy merged with his consciousness. The sensation was indescribable, like falling into a sea of stars while remaining perfectly still. Through their shared perception, he finally understood what they faced. The hunger was loneliness. The confluence was meant to connect, to share, to unite. But the hegemony had twisted it, forced it, until that desire became a desperate, consuming need. Transform it, not fight it, the keeper had said. Together, their merged consciousness reached into the vortex. Rook's human mind, chaotic and adaptable, provided an anchor. Vena's luminar nature gave them the power to reshape the energy patterns. The hunger struck at them with terrifying force. But where it sought to consume, they offered connection. Where it demanded submission, they gave choice. Rook's consciousness began to fragment under the strain, but Vena's light held him together. Trust me, her thoughts merged with his. Let go. Rook surrendered to the connection. His memories flowed into the vortex, joy, pain, love, loss, all the complexity of human experience. Vena's memories joined them, showing the beauty of what the confluence was meant to be. The chamber erupted with light as the hunger transformed. The dark crystals blazed with new purpose, no longer consuming but connecting, as they were meant to do. The shadow echoes throughout the station changed with it, their broken forms healing. When awareness returned, Rook found himself on his knees, Vena's crystalline form supporting him. Her light pulsed with exhausted triumph. Did we? He managed. Yes, she chimed softly. The confluence is reborn, but changed. Connected, but not consuming. Free. Through the chamber's viewport, they watched the dying star pulse with new energy. The hegemony fleet hung motionless, their crews touched by the true connection they had only glimpsed before. "They'll be after us again," Rook said, standing unsteadily. "Once they realize what we've done." Vena's light sparkled with what he now recognized as amusement. "Let them come. We have shown the galaxy another way. Hope spreads faster than hunger." As they made their way back to the Star Cutter, supporting each other, Rook felt the lingering touch of their shared consciousness. "So," he said, "what's next?" Vena's form brightened. "The stars are full of broken things waiting to be transformed. Shall we find them together?" Rook smiled. "Wouldn't have it any other way." The Star Cutter lifted off, carrying them into the darkness between stars. But now that darkness held no fear, only the promise of new connections waiting to be forged, new wrongs to be transformed into light. The hidden truth. The maintenance tunnels of Nexus Prime wound through the station like arteries, carrying power, data, and secrets. Rook and Vena moved silently through the darkness, her crystalline form dimmed to bare minimum luminescence. Above them, the grand archives of the Keeper stretched for kilometers, a repository of knowledge from across the galaxy. "Security checkpoint ahead," Rook whispered, checking his scanner. 2 guards, automated systems. Vena's voice chimed softly. "I sense something else. The echoes are stronger here." They reached a junction where the tunnel opened into a maintenance hub. Through the grating, they could see the guards, and something that made Rook's blood run cold. Behind the guards stood a figure that seemed made of fractured darkness, its form vaguely humanoid but wrong, like a broken mirror reflecting nothing. "A shadow echo," Vena breathed, her light flickering with horror. "They've already begun the experiments." The dark figure's head snapped toward their position. Unlike Vena's graceful movements, it jerked unnaturally, like a puppet on broken strings. The guards didn't seem to notice its strange behavior. "It can sense me," Vena warned. "We must move quickly." Rook pulled out his pulse pistol, modified with crystals from Zix's collection. "Ready?" Vena nodded. In one fluid motion, she sent a pulse of energy through the grating while Rook fired at the security systems. The guards dropped unconscious as their neural implants temporarily overloaded. But the shadow echo remained. It spoke, its voice a distortion of Vena's crystalline tones. "Sister, join the new confluence." "That's not your voice," Vena said firmly, emerging from the tunnel. "And I am not your sister." "What have they done to you?" The creature lunged with impossible speed. Rook's modified pistol seemed to pass right through it, but Vena's light caught it, holding it in place. Up close, Rook could see that its form was made of darkened crystals, pulsing with sickly energy. "They shattered one of us," Vena realized, her voice thick with grief. "Broke the crystal matrix and rebuilt it wrong. This is what they plan for all of us." The shadow echo writhed in her grip. "The hunger, it burns, make it stop." Vena's light intensified. "Rest now, brother. Be at peace." A pulse of pure energy wrapped around the creature, and for a moment, its dark crystals cleared, showing the pure form beneath. Then it dissolved into harmless dust. "Vena." Rook started. "Later," she said firmly, though her light trembled. "The archives. Before more come." They raced through the corridors, following Zix's mapped route. The archive's main doors loomed ahead, a massive construction of rare metals and security fields. But Vena wasn't headed there. This way, she guided them to a seemingly blank wall. Her light pulsed in a complex pattern, and a hidden door appeared. The Keepers always maintained secret ways. Inside, they found not the sterile data banks they expected, but a chamber filled with crystalline formations. At its center stood a tall, robed figure with skin like parchment and eyes filled with galaxies, the Keeper. I have waited long for this moment, the Keeper's voice echoed strangely. Last daughter of the Luminars. Last hope. You knew we would come, Vena said. It wasn't a question. The patterns demand balance. The hegemony seeks to recreate the confluence, but they do not understand. They believe they can control it, use it to link all consciousness to their will. They cannot. The Keeper waved a hand, and the crystals around them lit up with images, records of the past. They showed the Luminars discovering the confluence, learning to link their consciousness across space. Then came the warning signs, the hunger that grew with each connection, the slow corruption of minds. My people chose to seal it away, Vena whispered. To save everyone, we had to. Appear to destroy yourselves, the Keeper finished. But the hegemony found fragments of the truth. Now they build their own version, a forced confluence that will create exactly what your people sought to prevent, a consciousness that devours all others. Rook watched the images with growing dread. How close are they? Too close. The shadow echoes are just the beginning. Soon they will attempt to activate their network across all their territories. Billions of minds will be. No, Vena's voice rang with determination. I will not let that happen. Show me what I must do. The Keeper touched her crystalline form. Information flowed between them in pulses of light. You will need help, the Keeper said, looking at Rook. The human's mind, it is different. Resistant to the hunger. This is why you were drawn to him. I'll do whatever it takes, Rook said firmly. Before the Keeper could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. They know you are here, she said urgently. Go. What you need is in your mind now, Vena. Remember, the key is not in fighting the hunger, but in transforming it. They ran from the chamber as security forces converged on their position. But Rook noticed Vena's light was stronger now, more focused. Did you get what we need? He asked as they fought their way back to the maintenance tunnels. Yes, she said, her voice ringing with purpose. But Rook, what we must do. I cannot ask this of you. He grabbed her crystalline hand, ignoring the energy that crackled between them. You're not asking. I'm choosing. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Her light pulsed with emotion as they raced through the darkness, pursued by guards and the echoes of broken dreams. The truth they'd learned was terrible, but it gave them purpose. Now they just had to survive long enough to use it. Trust fall. The Starcutter drifted in the shadow of a massive gas giant, its systems powered down to minimal levels. In the dim cockpit, Rook watched streams of data scroll across his displays while Vena floated nearby, her crystalline form pulsing with gentle light. Another patrol, she whispered, her light dimming further. 3 ships, heavy signatures. They're getting closer to finding our pattern. Rook nodded grimly. They'd been playing this game of hide and seek for 2 weeks now, staying one step ahead of the hegemony's search grid. Each jump brought them closer to the outer rim, but their hunters were adapting, learning. Your powers, he said carefully, watching her fading light. They're not recovering like they should, are they? Vena's form shimmered with what he'd learned to recognize as uncertainty. The neural dampeners, they did more than suppress my abilities. They damaged something fundamental. And there is something else. She drifted closer to the viewport. I feel echoes. Calls from others like me. I thought the Luminars were extinct. As did I. But these echoes, they feel wrong. Distorted. Her light flickered with distress. The hegemony has been busy during my imprisonment. The ship's sensors pinged softly, the patrol was moving away. Rook began powering up systems, but his mind raced with implications. They're experimenting with Luminar technology, aren't they? That's why they wanted you so badly. Yes. But they do not understand what they meddle with. The power they seek to harness. She turned to face him, her starlight eyes intense. My people locked it away because it was too dangerous. It feeds on consciousness itself. A cold feeling settled in Rook's stomach. During the war, he'd seen the results of hegemony weapons research. The thought of them accessing consciousness-affecting technology. We need to stop them. We. Vena's form brightened slightly. You have already risked much for me. And I'd do it again. Rook plotted their next jump. Besides, I didn't free you just to let the hegemony hurt more people. But first, we need information. I know someone who might help, Vena said hesitantly. A keeper of records. My people trusted her kind with our histories. If any evidence of what the hegemony did still exists. Worth a shot. Where do we find this keeper? Nexus Prime. But it is, heavily controlled by the hegemony. Rook grinned. Good thing I know someone who specializes in getting into places they shouldn't. He opened a secure channel. Time to call in another favor. Hours later, they docked at a remote asteroid mining facility. A figure waited in the shadows of the landing bay, tall, insectoid, with chrome cybernetics gleaming against black chitin. Zix, Rook greeted his old information broker. Thanks for meeting us. The broker's compound eyes studied Vena with obvious fascination. When you said you needed help, I didn't expect this. His mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The hegemony has placed an astronomical bounty on both of you. Any takers? All dead. Zix's eyes glittered with amusement. Apparently hunting a luminar is hazardous to one's health. But that's not why you're here. Rook explained their need to access Nexus Prime. As he spoke, Vena drifted closer to Zix, her light pulsing with interest. Your cybernetics, she said suddenly. They bear luminar energy signatures. Zix froze. Impossible. These are standard market models. No, Vena's voice hardened. They are powered by crystalline cores. My people's technology. Her light flared. Where did you get them? The broker stepped back, mandibles twitching. The black market. High-end military surplus. I never questioned. He turned to Rook. You need to see something. Zix led them to a secure terminal, bringing up classified documents. The hegemony's been flooding the market with experimental tech for years. All of it based on crystalline power sources. But lately, they've been buying it back. Violently. They're covering their tracks, Rook realized. Whatever they're planning, it's reaching critical stage. Vena studied the technical specifications, her light pulsing with growing alarm. These designs, they're attempting to replicate the confluence. At their questioning looks, she continued, a network that once connected all luminar consciousness. But their version is crude, forced. If they activate it, what happens? Best case. The death of everyone connected to their network. Worst case. Her form dimmed. The creation of something that should not exist. A hunger that never ends. Zix's cybernetics whirred as he processed this. I can get you into Nexus Prime through maintenance tunnels. But the Keeper's archives are in the most secure sector. We'll handle that part, Rook assured him. Just get us in. As they prepared to leave, Vena touched Zix's cybernetic arm gently. Light flowed from her fingers, and the broker gasped. What did you? Purified the crystals. They were tainted. Now they are clean. She turned to Rook. We must hurry. The echoes grow stronger. Back aboard the Star Cutter, plotting their course to Nexus Prime, Rook watched Vena's troubled expression. Having second thoughts? No, she said firmly. But Rook, what we may find. The truth of what happened to my people. He reached out, letting his hand hover near her crystalline one. Whatever we find, you're not facing it alone. Her light pulsed warmly as their fingers almost touched. Thank you, she whispered. The ship's engines hummed to life as they prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. The truth waited somewhere in Nexus Prime's archives. They just had to survive long enough to find it. Breaking chains. The corridors of Horizon Station blurred past as Rook and Venna sprinted through maintenance tunnels, her crystalline form casting dancing shadows on the metal walls. Security drones whirred overhead, their scanning beams sweeping for unauthorized movement. My ship's in Docking Bay 7, Rook said between breaths. But the main routes will be locked down. Venna's voice chimed like wind through glass. The dampeners weakened me. I cannot simply teleport us there. A security barrier slammed down ahead of them with a metallic clang. Rook swore under his breath, then noticed a maintenance shaft. Up here. He interlaced his fingers to give her a boost, but Venna had already begun climbing, her crystalline form surprisingly agile. Halt! The mechanized voice of a security bot echoed behind them. Rook fired 2 quick shots from his pulse pistol, shorting out its hover systems before scrambling up after Venna. The maintenance shaft was a cramped maze of pipes and conduits. Rook's old scout training kicked in as he navigated the industrial labyrinth. Left here, then 2 levels down, he instructed. How are you holding up? The neural dampener's effects are fading, Venna replied. Her light pulsed stronger now, illuminating their path. But I sense others approaching. Powerful minds. The hegemony brought psychic hunters. Rook's stomach dropped. Psychic hunters were the hegemony's elite trackers, cybernetically enhanced beings who could sense energy signatures across vast distances. Can they track you? Yes. But I can confuse them, temporarily. Venna pressed her crystalline hand against a junction box. Light surged through the station's power conduits, creating dozens of energy echoes. That will buy us minutes, nothing more. They emerged into a lower maintenance corridor just as an explosion rocked the station. Rook stumbled, catching himself against a wall. That wasn't part of my plan. The hegemony grows impatient, Venna observed. They would rather destroy the station than let me escape. The corridor ahead blazed with sudden light as a psychic hunter materialized, a tall, cybernetic figure with glowing neural implants spiderwebbing across its gray skin. Its hollow eyes fixed on Venna. The specimen will be returned, it intoned. Resistance is. Rook didn't let it finish. He fired his pulse pistol directly at its neural implants, disrupting its psychic abilities. The hunter staggered, but its augmented reflexes were incredible. It launched itself at Rook with inhuman speed. Venna's form blazed. A barrier of pure light materialized between Rook and the hunter, sending the cyborg crashing back. I am not your specimen, she declared, her voice resonating with power. They ran, the hunter's frustrated screech echoing behind them. Docking Bay 7 is just ahead, Rook panted. My ship's the Star Cutter, beat-up freighter, can't miss it. The docking bay doors were sealed, but Rook quickly bypassed the security with codes he'd borrowed from the maintenance chief. As the doors slid open, revealing the Starcutter's weathered hull, another explosion shook the station. Multiple hunter signatures converging, Venna warned. Her light flickered with effort as she maintained the energy echoes misleading their pursuers. Rook slapped the ship's access panel. Star Cutter, emergency startup sequence. The engines hummed to life as they scrambled aboard. He threw himself into the pilot's seat while Venna took the co-pilot position, her crystalline form casting prismatic patterns across the cockpit. They're cutting through the docking clamps, she reported, monitoring the ship's sensors. Let them. Rook's hands flew across the controls. Sometimes the best way to break chains is to pull hard enough. The docking bay's magnetic containment field sparked and failed, another gift from his maintenance contact. As vacuum began pulling at the bay, Rook fired the Starcutter's maneuvering thrusters. The weakened docking clamps snapped with a soundless shudder. They shot out of the bay like a cork from a bottle, narrowly avoiding a hegemony cruiser emerging from hyperspace. "Hold on!" Rook yelled, pushing the engines to full power. The Starcutter wasn't much to look at, but he'd modified her engines himself. Vena's fingers gripped her seat as they accelerated. 3 pursuit craft launching. The hunters are aboard them. They can track us through normal space, Rook acknowledged, plotting a course through the asteroid fields surrounding the station. But let's see how they handle this. He activated the Starcutter's experimental phase drive, another acquisition from his military days. The ship's hull vibrated as reality blurred around them. They weren't quite in hyperspace, but they weren't fully in normal space either. "Fascinating," Vena observed, watching the pursuit craft's energy signatures distort and fade. "You've modified your ship to exist partially out of phase with standard spacetime. Makes us hard to track, harder to hit." Rook allowed himself to relax slightly as the pursuit ships fell behind. "We've got about 6 hours before we need to drop back to normal space. Want to tell me why the hegemony wants you badly enough to destroy a station?" Vena's light dimmed slightly. "My people, we were not destroyed by accident, as the galaxy believes. The hegemony learned we had discovered something. Something they wished to possess. When we refused to share our discovery, they..." She trailed off. "They made you disappear," Rook finished grimly. "And now they found you." "Yes. But they do not realize what they truly seek. The power they wish to control." Her form pulsed with worried light. "It was sealed away for a reason." Rook checked their heading, plotting a course toward the outer rim. "Well, they'll have to find someone else to help them unlock it. You're free now." "Free," Vena repeated the word as if tasting it. "But at what cost to you? The hegemony does not forget its enemies." He shrugged. "Already on their bad side from the war. Besides," he offered a slight smile, "somebody once told me that doing the right thing isn't about counting the cost." Vena studied him with her starlight eyes. "You are, not what I expected, Rook Thorn. Story of my life." He settled back in his chair as the stars streaked past. "Get some rest. Something tells me we've got a long journey ahead." As Vena retreated to meditate, Rook contemplated their situation. He'd just made an enemy of the most powerful organization in the galaxy to free a being of nearly unlimited power. His rational mind screamed that this was a terrible idea. But watching the subtle play of light through Vena's crystalline form as she meditated, Rook couldn't bring himself to regret it. Some things were worth any price. The acquisition. The neon glow of Horizon Station's underground market painted everything in sickly shades of blue and red. Rook Thorn adjusted the collar of his worn flight jacket, trying to look as unremarkable as possible among the crowd of various alien species. The former military scout had seen his share of shady deals, but tonight's auction made his skin crawl. The market chamber was carved from an asteroid, its walls still bearing the rough marks of mining equipment. Wealthy collectors and criminal syndicates gathered in clusters, their whispered conversations echoing off the stone. They were all here for one thing, the mysterious artifact that would be presented at tonight's black market auction. Rook's contact, a chidinous information broker named Zix, had warned him about this sale. They found something in deep space, something that shouldn't exist anymore. The hegemony's very interested, which means it's trouble. The auctioneer, a tall amphibian in expensive robes, took the central platform. "Distinguished guests, tonight we present a truly unique acquisition." A containment field hummed to life, revealing a humanoid figure floating in suspension. Rook's breath caught. Inside the field was a being made of translucent crystal, its form vaguely feminine. Fractal patterns rippled through her body like frozen lightning. Her eyes were closed, but energy pulsed beneath her surface in gentle waves. "Behold, a living luminar," the auctioneer announced. The crowd gasped. The Luminars were supposed to be extinct, a mysterious species that had vanished centuries ago after achieving mastery over energy and light itself. Impossible, someone muttered. They destroyed themselves. The crystalline being's eyes opened, revealing pools of swirling starlight. She looked directly at Rook, and in that moment, he felt a presence brush against his mind, not invasive, but questioning, curious. The bidding started at a ludicrous sum, but Rook barely heard the numbers. He was focused on the Luminar's face. Despite her alien appearance, he recognized the expression she wore. He'd seen it in the mirror after his discharge, the look of someone trapped, desperate for freedom but too dangerous to be allowed it. The subject is fully contained, the auctioneer continued. The neural dampeners ensure complete compliance. A perfect specimen for research or other applications. Rook's hand tightened on his concealed pulse pistol. He hadn't come here planning to bid. His savings from his military pension wouldn't cover a fraction of the price. But he had something better, detailed knowledge of the station's systems from his scouting days, and an old debt owed by the station's maintenance chief. The Luminar's eyes met his again, and this time he felt a clear message: help me. Rook moved carefully through the crowd, sending a coded signal through his implant to his ship's AI. In 3 minutes, the station's power grid would experience a routine fluctuation. He just had to time this perfectly. "Do I hear 50 million credits?" the auctioneer called. "The Hegemony Syndicate bids 50 million. Rook's blood ran cold. The Hegemony was here in person. If they got their hands on a living Luminar. He'd seen their weapons researched during the war. Never again. The lights flickered. Right on schedule. In the moment of confusion, Rook moved. His pulse pistol fired 3 precise shots, one at the containment field generator, one at the main lights, and one at the neural dampener controls. The chamber plunged into darkness. The containment field collapsed. Chaos erupted as the crowd panicked, pushing toward the exits. In the confusion, Rook vaulted onto the platform. The Luminar stood unsteadily, her crystalline form casting its own soft light. Up close, she was both beautiful and terrifying, power incarnate given form. "I'm Rook," he said quickly. "Want to get out of here?" Her voice resonated like crystal chimes. "I am Vena. Why help me?" "Because I've seen what happens when people like the Hegemony get their hands on weapons they don't understand. And because nobody deserves to be caged." Security alarms began blaring. Vena's light pulsed brighter. "They will hunt us." Rook grinned. "Good thing I'm pretty hard to catch." "Coming." She took his offered hand, her crystalline fingers cool against his skin. Together, they ran into the darkness, leaving chaos in their wake. Behind them, angry shouts and weapon fire erupted as the Hegemony realized their prize was escaping. They had about 3 minutes to reach Rook's ship before the station locked down. It wasn't much time, but he'd pulled off crazier escapes. Besides, he thought, glancing at his strange new companion, things were about to get very interesting.